Sorry, everybody, there was a technical lag there. So this meeting of the Bellevue School District Board of Directors is now called to order, and we will start with roll call.
Bill Block.
Carolyn Watson,
Marta Trilles,
Monica Webster.
Jane Norris.
Kelly Aramaki.
I'm going to go ahead and read the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of the Coast Salish, including the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, and Snoqualmie peoples. We thank these caretakers of the land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land and accept responsibility to interrupt erasure. We are committed to our ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we're going to have some acknowledgements. So on August 16th, we have Janmashtami. I imagine there's other things, but August is kind of a quiet month. And next, it's time for approval of the agenda. So as usual, I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Would anybody like to discuss the agenda? No, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, let's do, all those in favor of using the agenda as moved, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Oh, there's a lag on Director Block, but we'll try to wait for you. And then now we're going to do the consent agenda. And would anybody like to move to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Would anybody like to discuss the consent agenda? Yeah, and I'll tell the community, we've had a chance to discuss it on Monday, which is a meeting that you actually can listen to. So we've been through these things. And so I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 And anyone opposed? No? Okay, good. So now it's time for superintendent updates.
Great. Thank you so much, President Watson. Just a few things as we get closer and closer to the start of school. I'll start by just sharing we have a group of new educators who are starting in the Bellevue School District, and we did a very fun thing. We took them on a bus tour, kind of a history and culture tour of Bellevue, and I got to be the tour guide, which was really fun. So here are just some pictures of our tour together this past week. We started kind of in the Mercer Slough, went to Dilettante Coffee, thanks to the folks at Dilettante who processed 30 coffee orders very, very quickly. We visited Downtown Park. We looked at where the school district building used to be and Bellevue High School, and we visited Enetai. And then we came back around, went up to Highland, talked a lot about the diversity of our school district, the different programs that we have, and it was amazing just to spend time with a lot of our new educators. They were very excited to be a part of the Bellevue School District, and I was very impressed with the caliber of folks. Secondly, we've been doing this all summer, but we have movies in the park that happens at Bellevue Downtown Park as well as at Crossroads Park. And so at each one of these events, we have a booth to help get kids registered and give information about the Bellevue School District. And so it's kind of our welcome center that travels. And so Dr. Ricardo Macias and his team are always there. And then we have members of cabinet who show up. But you can see some photos there. At the most recent Movies in the Park at Downtown Park this past week, it was exciting because the Bellevue High School band was there playing and the Newport High School band were playing. They're in the middle of a 5-day band camp, and so they took some time to perform for the community, which was really wonderful. And you can see a photo of the Newport and Bellevue music teachers there as well. So we have such committed teachers, and it was great to see them and to hear the kids playing. This coming Saturday is Jubilee Reach Service Day, and so I just wanted to kind of shout out Jubilee Reach. They do so much for our community. They run all of our middle school activities and athletics. They run a food pantry where people, families in need, can get food every single week. They teach English lessons for families who are here. But once a year in the summertime, Jubilee Reach pulls together over 1,000 volunteers who go into all of our elementary schools and some of our middle schools in order to help teachers set up their classrooms. And so that's happening this Saturday from 8 to 12. If you are listening in and you want to volunteer in a school, jubileereach.org/service day, you can sign up with your family and your community. And I'm excited to go around with the executive director, Randy Ang, and visit the different school sites. Lastly, today, the kind of the headline of this board meeting is the presentation of our 25-26 budget. And so it's been a long journey. We presented this kind of the budget preview back in June. And at every meeting, we've had updates and things like that to the board. And it culminates today with the passing of this budget. And so I'm looking forward to being able to share kind of the final kind of budget proposal with the school board. And that's going to happen later. And that is the end of superintendent comments.
Thank you. Wow, we're just zooming along here. Okay, so now we have public comment. And I rely on Chief of Staff John Harrison to help me with that.
Do you want to do your guidelines first?
Okay, I don't have my guidelines script, so I'm back to ad hoc. But we like to hear public comment. Every speaker gets 2 minutes. We try to maximize the number of people we can hear from without taking too much time, big chunks of time out of the meeting, so we have to stick to 2 minutes. So we ask you that you hold yourself to standards of civility, the same standards that the board is imposing on itself, which means let's not hear any comments that are libelous or slanderous, that are an unwarranted invasion of privacy, nothing obscene or indecent, nothing that violates school district policy or procedure related to harassment, intimidation, bullying, or discrimination, no inciting of unlawful acts on school premises, no violating a lawful school regulation, and please don't create a material or substantial disruption of the orderly operation of this board meeting. Okay, so with that, those guidelines, we can hear from.
I believe that we have 2 speakers tonight. And we've got one online, one in person. So we'll go with Mr. Alex Zimmerman in person first, and then we'll go online to Sam.
Yeah, my name is Alex Zimmerman, and I'm very happy. So after 2 years of trespass, what did you give me? I come back, you can speak. What as I see right now, in this understanding what is going on, fascism, local fascism includes school, go bigger and bigger. To me, it looks sometimes like concentration camp. First, number 1, nobody have 2 minutes for speak. I spoke everywhere. Bellevue, Mesley Island, Kirkland, Redmond, Issaquah. Everybody have 3 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. It's very interesting. Well, we have 3 minutes. Why you have 2 minutes? Because you don't want what is children and parents come and speak. You don't give over 3 minutes. You cut constitutional right, freedom of speech. It's not surprise me. So Trump first month make a executive order about free speech, what is we have for 200 years ago. Guys, you by definition, look, not so good. I used before word Nazi, you know what it means, but I scared when I use word Nazi socialist, comparable to you in concentration camp, you know what it means. You will give me another trespass for 1 year. And so interesting, nobody, no children, no parents, no people, no teachers, no one come here and talk and give 3 minutes like everybody. Why 2 minutes? How is this possible? You show us children, so you don't give the chance speak for 2 minutes? Guys, where is you find this 2 minutes? Show me. I cannot, and I speak 5,000 times in council chamber, and have 6,000 days of trespass, and 5 times prosecute me. Guy, by definition, we have a very stupid degree of fascism officially right now. Can country number 1 a fascist country right now in America? It's exactly what's happened. But you teach children, you're not supposed to be doing this. Thank you very much. You start 3 minutes. Stop in this stupidity.
We have our online commenter, Sam Terpstra.
I don't see a Sam, but I see a David. David, I'll go ahead and allow you if you are Sam.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Cool. So, so I'm not Sam, by the way. I'm David. So, I wonder why that Belleville School District is like a close lock all the like public school courts, like tennis courts, football courts, everything. They pay extra money to hire people to lock them, and then they pay separate people to like post the schedule over there. And for each type of court, they put different people to lock them on a regular basis. And I mean, for all the rest of the school districts around us, like maybe Lake Washington, like Raymond, like Mercer Island, everywhere they all open the courts to public. But why BSD is like not opening them, but only like pay extra money to ask people to lock them to the public? And also for especially near my community, so there is a school called Highland Middle School. So although online it's saying that the court is open, but still, I mean, no one shows up to open the court. And but I saw people open up, showing up to like post the schedule saying it is open. Yeah, it should be open, but they don't have the key to open the court. So I wonder like why the service is like this. I mean, are we just managing the like upwards to the management team, to the board, but lying to the actual community? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
with us for the technical difficulties.
The audio is back.
Okay, so we'll hear from Pam with the timer as soon as we can.
And please, can we make sure that the speaker identifies herself? State your name for the record, please.
All right, Pam, we've unmuted your mic.
The person we're looking for just has a P. Maybe it's not Pam, but if they would just please go ahead and speak. Their mic looks muted still to me.
She'll have to unmute on her.
Oh, you'll have to unmute and then speak.
Pam, your mic should be allowed to unmute. Go ahead and unmute. Look for the microphone icon in the corner.
All right, no, still looks muted. Okay.
There we go. Okay, yes, the
We can hear you.
P in a circle is for me, that's Pam. Okay, the reason,
First and last name, please.
sure, Pam Warnath, Warnath.
Thank you. Okay, go
So,
ahead.
sure, I would like to have more information about the property purchase that is taking place in Westwood Highlands, the 10 acres. So I'm most interested in knowing the quantity of residences that will be built and the type of residences that will be built. Do you have that information?
The board doesn't respond to comments during public comment.
Okay, so what path should I take to get answers to that question or to obtain a contact that I can reach out to?
Send email to board@bsd405.org. And our chief
Okay.
of staff will respond to that with, with the information that he can provide. He may not be able to provide that information.
Okay, great. That's what I needed to know. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Yeah, the interactive is not usual for public comment. It's usually just 2 minutes of straight telling us what you want us to hear.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else? Okay. I'm not seeing anybody else. So at this point, I'm going to say public comment is over unless the person who signed up that we didn't hear from reappears. It is now past the time that we would have expected him. So I think we're just moving on now. Wait, no, we got 3 more minutes. All right, if he shows up in 3 minutes, we'll hear him. We're going to try again to go ahead with the budget presentation.
Okay, great. Yes, so here we are going to present the 2025-26 budget to the school board for approval. And I will just, I'm going to kick it off. First thing I'll just mention is this budget is something that our team has worked very hard on. And you can see here the tagline, right-sizing spending, strengthening systems, uplifting students. And then that is what we are trying to accomplish in this budget for the upcoming school year. Based on the financial challenges that we've been experiencing, this budget attempts to right-size our spending and bring our spending within our revenue We have done a lot of work to strengthen our internal systems to support that effort, and our goal ultimately is to lift our students. And it's exciting to say, you know, the U.S. News and World Reports just put out their latest kind of high school ratings, and 4 of our high schools are in the top 10 again. And so that is the work that we will continue to do, is to focus on creating the very best learning opportunities for our kids. The agenda for this report, this section is, I'm going to give you a little bit of budget overview. I'm going to talk about the timeline for developing this budget. And then I'm going to turn it over to our interim Chief Financial Officer, Lauren Tillman, who is going to present the actual 25-26 budget. And it's basically a summary of the things that we've been talking about for the past couple of months. And then he's going to turn it back over to me, and then I'm going to share some other key points about the budget. They're not specifically about the budget itself, but maybe some more tangential things related to the budget that the school board had asked about on Monday that we wanted to share with the public. And then I'll turn it back over to you to facilitate questions and comments from the board. And then from there, we'll go into the passing of the resolutions. Yeah. So I talked about this at the last board meeting, but for people who are just tuning in, who've been hearing, you know, about some of the financial challenges that we've been facing in the Bellevue School District, this slide gives you kind of an overview of the things that have happened kind of over time. These are the main points, though. We're ending the 24-25 school year with a negative fund balance due to numerous factors that include insufficient state funding, cost inflation exceeding revenue increases, increased student needs post-pandemic, inadequate internal budgeting and spending assumptions and controls. Our board passed a resolution in June requesting to be placed in binding conditions with OSPI, which comes with a jointly developed plan to restore the fund balance, support, comes with guidance, increased data sharing, plus it includes the ability for us to take interfund loans without interest and to use funds from a one-time sale of property to rebuild the fund balance. So binding conditions is a lot of support from OSPI and the Puget Sound ESD, and binding conditions gives us the opportunity to borrow from our other budget buckets and to sell property to help restore the fund balance. We've worked very hard this year to correct critical internal processes. Our board approved the selling of property for $30 million, which we're expecting to close no later than spring 2027, which will help accelerate the restoring of our fund balance, which is a result of Senate Bill 5412, which passed in this most recent legislative session. We have increased levy authority coming our way as a result of House Bill 2049, starting in 2026. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the levy, which our voters will get to vote on in February. And then the last point is our budget over the next 4 years must ensure that expenditures do not exceed revenues, which is particularly true while our fund balance is below 5% of our budget. So that's kind of a snapshot of our financial situation in Bellevue. We've been working on the budgeting process since December, but this is kind of a zoom in on what we've been working on since June. We presented a preliminary budget to the board in study session on June 26th. We submitted our draft budget to the Puget Sound ESD for their review July 10th. We had an Audit and Finance Advisory Council meeting to look at the budget July 30th. We had a budget presentation to the board, plus a board study session on the October 7th board meeting. We had another Audit and Finance retreat. It was 3 hours, I think, to review budget, talk about budget assumptions. And that brings us today, where we have our public hearing, and the board will be voting to approve the budget for this coming school year. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to our interim Chief Financial Officer, Lauren Tillman, who will take us through the budget.
Thank you, Dr. Aramaki and board. So yes, this is the presentation overview summary of what we've already presented. And the slides from the detailed presentation from the August 7th are in appendix to this that is available online to the board and the public. So the detail will be in there. This is just a summary of that. There it goes. So during the budget process, that the budget adoption requirements are the F-195, which is the official document of the budget that needs to be presented, and then a F-194, which is a four-year forecast budget. It's a summary, it's a starting point for the district to see a starting point for the future years. The budget and the expenditure estimates for the upcoming year, which are in the F-195 for the 25-26, that is what the district is planning to utilize their resources to spend, and then the board will approve those expenditures and not exceed those expenditures. And then a budget resolution is required to be approved by the board by August 31st of every year, and that will be later on during this board meeting for your vote. So this is a overview summary of all 5 of the district's funds. So just want to point out the 5 funds are up top, and each of these are just the individual summaries. Again, the last board meeting's detail of these are attached on the appendix. Want to point out that the other 4 funds have a healthy fund balance and are very healthy and strong for the district. Primary focus is the general fund. And in the general fund, this budget represents and shows that the budgeted revenue exceeds the budgeted expenditures by $2 million. This is a budget that has been gone through with a fine-tooth comb, corrected prior budget assumption errors. So this is a good representation of the upcoming year and represents that our revenue will exceed our expenditures. And then it does represent an ending fund balance for next year, 25-26, as a negative $2,999,099, which meets the binding requirements that we are currently in. And so some of the budget risks that are in there or could possibly present risks for us are that the special education needs and expenditures continue to exceed what is in the budget. The fall enrollment comes in lower than what we budgeted for. Another enrollment risk is that enrollment comes in at different school levels, which could result in overstaffing at certain levels. Additional new staff positions that are not built into the budget is a risk. And then a commitment to additional expenditures that we do not reduce other expenditures to stay in line with the overall budget is a risk. And then the final risk to point out is transportation ridership is lower than we budgeted for, which would result in lower revenue than we estimated. And then all these risks could result in a lower ending fund balance than we are budgeting for. The next part, which is the F-195F, which is the 4-year forecast, which is just a starting point. It's an assumption of everything as status quo, with several of the assumptions which are on the right side of the slide, pointing out that this is the assumptions that we used to point out. It reflects and highlights what we're forecasting, and that the structural funding of public schools continues to be a challenge with enrollment, revenue, and expenditure trends staying at that status quo. As you can see, we would be, in future years, if everything stayed consistent, we would be running a risk of lowering our ending fund balance and not meeting our future binding condition requirements. So additional cuts will be needed. Several of the assumptions to highlight are that this is assuming that our future levy elections do pass, which do not affect this year's budget, but would affect future year budgets. Later on in the presentation, it will be pointing out that that is roughly 24% of our general fund revenue comes from those levies, so they are very important and crucial to us. It also does not take into account for that Somerset surplus property, as the amount that could be moved into general fund has not been established, so therefore we cannot take that into account at this moment. And yes, so this is the 4-year. Again, it is just a starting point, giving us an idea, seeing that future cuts and future action is needed. But if enrollment increases, if we continue to do other cuts, this is not, it's just a starting point, and every year we use this and then we build each year from there. So after that, the next steps are, we are still working on the 24-25 actuals. So most of the next steps from September to November are closing the current year, even though we are looking forward to next year and students are coming very soon back to school, that the September 4th will be a board study session about the July financials. August, there will be no 24-25 financials presented, but we will provide an update during study sessions. We'll provide updates for next year, the 25-26 enrollment, staffing at those study sessions. And then in the November 13th study session, that's when we will have the final information and close the financials for the 24-25 school year. Again, all the detail is in the appendix. The timeline that Dr. Arkamaki showed on the slide before I started the presentation does have hyperlinks to the videos of the June 27th board meeting that had the presentation, and then the August 7th presentation. So these are available to the public. You can click on that hyperlink and it will automatically open up that recording to review those, and all those slides from the August 7th presentation are in an appendix on this for the detail. This is just an overall quick summary of the budget. Dr. Aramaki?
Great, thank you. Yeah, we've been working on this for a long time, so if people are just tuning in for the first time this meeting, that will seem very high level, but that is on purpose because we've gone into a lot of detail earlier. The board has had numerous study sessions to be able to ask a lot of different questions about it, and so I do encourage people who are interested to click on those hyperlinks, watch those board meetings, listen to the conversations, and then in this PowerPoint at the end, we have all of the slides from last board meeting, which go into this in much more detail. But with that, there are some things kind of new-ish that I want to share that are somewhat tangential to the budget, but of interest both to the board and I think to the public. I'll share first, this year has been a year of improving internal processes and transparency. We have worked very hard to correct things so that we have better budgeting practices and things like that. And so we've shown this slide before, but I just want to remind the community with regards to internal processes, we've made strategic staffing changes, which have, including hiring Lauren as our interim CFO, and has made a world of difference in creating a more collaborative environment. And with Megan Hayden, who is our budget director, just so much more of a detailed approach to budgeting. We've established really strong position controls between finance and our HR department. We've put in spending controls. Our budget analysts are working very closely with budget owners. We have this really robust enrollment and staffing coordination process where we are making sure that we're tracking enrollment and then staffing to that enrollment. We worked very hard to improve special education spending and the safety net process, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And we have gone through with a fine-tooth comb every single budget assumption. There's over 1,000 lines of budget assumptions that we have to do. And so our team has gone through it line by line, and I'm going to talk about some of that in a future slide. And then on the transparency and communication slide, we've just worked very hard to make sure that we have better communication with the board, better reports, better visuals to show cash flow, revenue and expenditures and things like that. And we've started an Audit and Finance Advisory Council, which includes board directors as well as people from our public who have financial expertise. And so we've done a lot of work internally to strengthen our budgeting and spending here in the district. We've talked about this before, but I just want to show some of the key budget assumptions that have been readjusted. Like I said, there's over 1,000 that our team has looked at. These are the 6 big ones, but you can see if I just go over one, certificated substitutes. We have to budget for substitutes when teachers get sick and things like that. In 23-24 in the budget, only 0.3 million was budgeted for substitutes, but that year we spent 5.8. In 24-25, we worked to fix that, but we only budgeted 3.2, spent 5.5. This year we are budgeting 5.5 million. And a lot of thought has gone into that number. Even though costs are going up, we've greatly decreased the amount of staff. We've also worked with our collective bargaining groups to decrease the number of days needed for substitutes. And so we feel that is a much more accurate budget assumption for certificated substitutes. And the other 6, the other 5 are looking at class coverage, remedy for teachers who have class sizes bigger than what's in the contract. We have fixed state special education, utilities, running start. So those are the big 6 categories. But we've done that for every single category in our F-195. For people who love the budget, this is probably interesting. For people who don't necessarily love the budget but are wondering what is going to be the impact on my kids, I just came up with kind of a basic list, and I'm going to include this in a future blog to send out to the community. But there probably will be some impacts that people feel from this current budget. The first one is we are actually expanding programs, especially those that increase enrollment. So we are growing our global language programs. We're growing our CTE programs. Our digital discovery and our parent partnership is growing as well. The Parent Partnership is a new program that we're starting this year to provide support to families who homeschool their kids but want support from the school district. And between digital discovery and parent partnerships, we've increased enrollment from about 30 to 100. So we're excited about that. And we must create programs that bring kids into the Bellevue School District. And so that is a positive that people will experience this year. We're also maintaining student services. We're still going to provide advanced learning services, special education services, multilingual learning services. And so that's not going to change. We have operational efficiency happening, and people might experience that. We're tightening up our spending on transportation and on things like that. And so people might experience some tightening of the operations. That one probably won't be felt by students and families as much. One of the big ones, though, is we are much tighter on our staffing. We are releasing a much more conservative staffing allocation to our schools, and our class sizes are going to be more in line with what other districts have. Bellevue has consistently had smaller class sizes than our districts, our neighboring districts. This year, we have to be more in line with other neighboring districts. So we're keeping an eye on that, but that would be something that people might notice. At the elementary level, parents might see more frequent combination classes. Last year, we spent a lot of money to undo combination classes or split classes. This year, we don't have the funding to do that. And so you might see 1 or 2 combination classes at each of our elementary schools, which I'll explain more in a blog post in the coming weeks. We might see possible constraints on electives. We offer unbelievable range of electives, but it's going to be based on enrollment. So if we don't have enough kids who want to sign up for a particular elective in the fall, we might not be able to run that elective in the fall and have to run it in the spring. And then the last thing is, because of our conservative staffing, families are probably going to experience schedule and class assignment adjustments in the first 2 to 3 weeks of school. We don't have the resources or the money or the luxury to push out a lot of staffing right now based on projections. We have to see how many kids actually show up in our classrooms. And so the first 2 or 3 weeks, we might see some adjustments to schedules. And it is just one bullet point, but I do, as a parent, know how hard that is, because when a student at the high school gets their schedule, finds their friends in those classes, and then a week later we have to change that schedule, it can be very hard in the moment. So I will just say, I understand the challenge of that, but we're going to need our community to help us lean in. We're going to have to be very conservative until we see how many kids actually show up at our different schools. In addition to budgeting risks, which Lauren talked about, there are also budgeting opportunities that we're hoping or looking forward to. The first one there is about special education. We continue to find efficiencies in special education services and in our safety net process. And so safety net is where we spend money on students that have more expensive service models, but then we can go to the state and ask for some of that money back. Thanks to process improvements and teamwork across special education, finance, and our schools, our safety net collection for 24-25 increased to $10.5 million compared to 6.5 the previous year. And so that is an incredible thing for our school district. It's going to provide us with more buffer than we would have had otherwise. And it is an opportunity going into the next year where we can continue to improve our safety net process so that we can collect as much money for the services that we're paying for our students. Another opportunity is resident and non-resident elementary enrollment is increasing, particularly due to innovative programming. So I mentioned parent partnerships, but also our language programs are drawing in more students than our typical neighborhood schools. So we're starting Japanese this fall, we started Korean last fall, we started Arabic the fall before that. But these schools are the schools that are growing and have the highest interest from out-of-district students. We are seeing an increase in secondary enrollment, and this is due to the fact that we have nationally recognized high schools. I'd mentioned the U.S. News and World Reports, but 4 of our high schools, International, Newport, Interlake, and Bellevue, are in the top 10 again. And all of our high schools and middle schools are just so high quality, and we're very proud of that. And because of that, we have more and more students who are enrolling at the secondary level. And then the last opportunity I just want to mention is around legislative advocacy. Bellevue is a leader in advocating with our legislature for fully funding of public education, whether it's our school board or myself. And so I'm going to just kind of pivot into that next and talk about that, because really the greatest opportunity that we have right now is to make sure that our state is fully funding education. I have been asked to serve on the Ample and Equitable Funding Task Force for OSPI. So House Bill 2049 requires that OSPI run a task force to look at this idea of ample and equitable funding. And so I'll be serving on that committee. We are supposed to put a report to the legislature by November. I'm also continuing my work with the University of Washington Superintendent Group. We call it the SUPS, Superintendents Unified in Partnership for Equitable Schools. But it's basically me and the superintendent of Yakima, Walla Walla, Bainbridge Island, all over the state coming together to talk about how we can advocate for fully funding of public education. And then lastly, the Bellevue Council PTSA, the Bellevue Education Association, and our school board here are leaders in advocating for public education funding. So we're going to continue that work, because really the solutions that we need long-term come through our legislature. We have built contingencies into this budget. And so I just want to show you an example of that. But contingencies are, as President Watson calls it, kind of the what ifs. And so what if something comes in less? What if something comes in more? We are building contingencies into our budget to address the what ifs. A total of $4.45 million in contingencies. It's not enough, but it's a start. And so, for example, we have $350,000 of contingency money for staffing in case enrollment comes in higher. We have $500,000 in contingency for interest. I don't exactly know what that means, but that is what's there, and on and on. So we have contingencies built into this budget, which will help us in case things turn out differently than what we expect. There's lots of questions from the public about the local levy and what the local levy impact is on our budget. And I just want to show this chart. We've shown this before, but I highlighted in yellow. Our local levy that our generous Bellevue voters vote on covers about 24, almost a quarter of our budget. So we have about a $430 million budget. Over $100 million of that budget comes from the local levy. And so we're going to put out to our voters a levy renewal this coming February. That vote will not impact the 25-26 budget, but it will impact the 26-27 budget. And so if the voters approve our levy, then we will have over $100 million to spend each year on our kids. If we don't pass those levies, it would be detrimental to our budget. So we will be talking more about the levy. The board's going to be doing some work to push forward a levy proposal, but I just wanted to share for the community who've been asking about the impact of the local levy on our budget. Something of kind of, it seems like a random interest, but the board had wanted to make sure that we call this out. But Bellevue, we are leaders in operations and facilities that actually save money and save the planet at the same time. And so I just want to do a shout out to Jack McLeod, Cindy King, our facilities team, in the work that they've done in rebuilding all of our buildings to be more environmentally sustainable, but also in ways that save us money. This is a picture of our new Puesta del Sol building. It's the state's first net zero school building. And what that means is the building produces more energy than it consumes. And so this just shows you what has gone into this building. We have geothermal heating and cooling, which is basically we use these big pipes, these wells that go into the ground to help kind of keep the temperature moderated in the school building. We have a 781 roof-mounted solar panels. We have this battery storage system that I don't understand. We have instantaneous on-demand water heaters as opposed to big water boilers that use a lot of energy. We have photovoltaic sensors that basically turn down the lights when light is coming in through the windows. All of these things basically save us about the cost of one teacher every single year. And so I should say thank you to our voters, because the bonds that they have voted on to rebuild all of our buildings is also saving us money in our operating budget. I think this is my last slide, but I also just want to say we also couldn't do this without our community support. Bellevue LifeSpring, Bellevue Schools Foundation, the Bellevue PTSA Council, but there's a lot of groups who are out there trying to bring in resources to our school district. Bellevue LifeSpring recently came to the school board and donated $45,000 to cover unpaid lunch debt. The Bellevue Schools Foundation donated $1.15 million to support mental health, STEM, teacher professional development, and that includes their most recent announcement that they have added $150,000 to pay for one more MHAT counselor to support elementary mental health. It's extraordinary. Bellevue Schools Foundation as an organization is extraordinary, but it's really our community that donates through them to provide these services for our kids. The Bellevue Council PTSA, they're working with our Welcome Center to increase parent and community volunteerism. And as I mentioned before, they're doing all this work around advocacy. And our local school PTSAs, those parents are working so hard to raise funding to be able to provide money for enrichment for our schools. And so These are just a small list, but we're so thankful for our local community and all the support of our kids and of our system. So that's where I'll end, and I will turn it over to board questions and comments. President Watson.
Okay, so time for board discussion. Who would like to go first? Anybody? Director Webster? Okay.
So I know that Mr. McLeod is not here, but what a strong, inspiring concept, the construction of that net zero building. I think for two reasons. One, that it shows that it can be accomplished in a school district because we're the first to do it and may lead others to kind of adopt similar models. And two, it really shows and demonstrates our commitment to our sustainability efforts here in our district and also across all of our district spaces. So it's quite an accomplishment, and they should be really proud of themselves. I also want to reiterate something that Dr. Aramaki spoke about just a few minutes ago, and that is how valuable our partners are. We just couldn't do it without any of them, PTSAs, Bellevue PTSAs, Jubilee Reach, Bellevue Schools Foundation, Rainier Athletes. They're just so incredible to us. They show up over and over again. They continue to show up for us, and I'm just so grateful to have a partnership with them. I do have just a couple of questions, Mr. Tillman. So the $4.5 million contingency gives us an important financial cushion. I'd like to know how the estimates were calculated. And if there would be any reason to adjust them. I guess I'm just wondering if we have any mechanisms in place to alert our finance team if there is an adjustment that might be needed. And then my second question was around the key readjusted budget assumptions. I think it was slide 32 about the class coverage. And I hope that, one, we could explain what class coverage is, because I think earlier this week, some of us had questions about what that actually is. And then I'm wondering if we're watching for any trends in that area. For instance, like are there specific classes that require more class coverage than others? Do we see more of a trend during like flu season or during like testing season or testing times in the schools or trends like that? So those are the two questions. Thanks.
Okay, we're gonna, hopefully, yeah, you need a notepad or it's because we'll batch everything. Somebody want to go next, or shall I go next? All right, I'm going to go next. How about that? I think we also get a chance to speak to the resolution, so I have to divide my comments. But what I'd like to point out here is, so what's new about this that I haven't seen in prior years? And a lot of that was in Dr. Aramaki's presentation, but we have, what I really like to see here is that they've highlighted the assumptions for everyone to see. I love that there was that list on one of the slides going down the side, and so the entire community can see what the assumptions are, the big assumptions that are going into this budget. I also really appreciate the risk analysis and the contingencies that our budget expert has put in there. Just there's some little cushion in case things go wrong. I'm also appreciating the list of steps that the staff have taken and the better practices. And I will highlight, I was, flummoxed, upset, I guess, about the position control thing that had happened last year that threw us over, because what had happened was some of the paraeducators were under a contractor budget and some of them were under direct hire budget, and the two things weren't really connecting, so we kind of overspent on the paras. So I really like that we've taken those lessons in hand, and that's not going to be happening again. The other thing I want to make sure I do, though, is reassure the community that even in a situation like that, the money that we overspent was not money that was wasted. Those paras went in and did work with kids, and those kids benefited from that. It's just that we can't afford that level, and we had to realize that. And then I really appreciate the better reporting that's going on. like I've said before, maybe, we used to get maybe a one-page narrative and always a spreadsheet, so we could see the numbers, but it was hard to analyze them. And now we get these wonderful reports that are like little booklets that have like graphs showing different things. And the one big difference is this cash flow analysis that I think we hadn't really been receiving that kind of information. And it's really good to know about, because that's when we go below the line, I want to say, but we go below zero because of cash flow. And that's something that's great to have the board to have that knowledge. How many days of cash do we have on hand, that sort of thing. And I really like the fact that we're doing these formal study sessions so the board can look at the actuals and sort of more eyes making sure they match the budgeted amounts. So that's great. These are all changes. And I also wanted to point out, just apropos what we were just talking about, just to make sure everyone knows, the money that we spent in construction funds on those geothermal whatevers that are helping us cut our utility bill, those we're never going to be able to spend on the teachers and supplies that we needed because they're in a different fund. Okay, next person. Director Aris. That's what it's hard with the online. Okay, Director Block.
Thanks, and thanks for the opportunity to participate. Having just dropped off my student at college on Monday, I'm excited to be able to participate, even though I'm remote today. I want to echo what the previous board members said. Really appreciate the community engagement and involvement in trying to help us work through our budget concerns and the continuing support from our partners, including Jubilee Reach, Bellevue Schools Foundation, the PTSAs, and others. Those have been amazing assets to the school district, and they're helping students every day. In looking at this budget, the first thing that comes to mind is how is it impacted by the binding conditions, and why did we go into binding conditions? So there were a couple benefits to the district in being in binding conditions at this point in time. One is that we're able to avoid paying interest from the general fund to the capital fund for borrowing, so that we can do things like make payroll. And it also facilitates the potential for using one-time proceeds from an activity like a property sale to restore the fund balance. Why is that important? Because there are two major things that we're working on at this point. One is that we're trying to make sure that the annual budget is a surplus budget, so that we're spending less than we're taking in as revenue, which is a challenge to do because we're allocated the amount of money that we need to spend to run the schools. So the other aspect is restoring the fund balance, which we hope to do with some support from the Somerset surplus property sale opportunity. I'm excited to see this budget has a focus on preserving teaching and learning activities, that we are continuing to maintain targets that are close to, on average, the targets that we have for the schools. There will be individual students who experience larger classes this year, but overall our average targets are very close to what our contractual targets are. We're also maintaining the commitment we make to special ed students and preserving those needs. I'm a little bit sad. Last year when we approved this budget, it anticipated that today we would have somewhere between $19 and $20 million in our fund reserve. Obviously, mistakes were made and changes had to be made to deal with those mistakes. Instead, we have a budget that has no margin for error. Right now, the target ending budget is $1 better than our binding target set by the state by OSPI. So that doesn't give us any chances to miss this year. And so we'll be working very hard on that, which will take some attention away from other things. I also want to recognize, I'm almost done. I also want to recognize the hard work that's gone into making sure that we're getting all of the funds that this school district deserves from the safety net funding and other sources for things like special education as well as transportation, and look forward to that continuing into the future. Thank you.
Okay, Which board member is next? Director Aris.
Well, I'll just say I concur with everyone else, all the other board directors' comments on all the positives that we have done to improve our system. A couple little additional details to some of those comments. I think when we think about saving dollars and improving our system, mentioning our partners such as what was already listed, but wanted to really kind of point out like Jubilee Reach and their service day when they have, was it about 1,000 volunteers? That's 1,000 volunteers of a day's work. That's a lot of money and manpower that we are saving on thanks to our community participation. And that's not just our parents, but larger community as well. And our Rainier athletes who are providing mentors and tutoring, which also helps our students to improve their education experience. All of these, I think the larger community support and engagement is such a crucial thing in helping control our budget. I have to say that I'm very thankful that we have improved our safety net processes. I know when I first joined, I was told that we had a good process. Obviously, it was not, and I appreciate that we improved it. And we definitely have, it's a place where we could save a lot of money. For, I think, general public who doesn't understand is that as a school district, we have to pay up front, and then we have to prove that we deserve that money back. And we don't always get all the money that we spend on our students. And it's indiscretionary of the whatever the process in the state puts out there. Our monthly budget report, I just want to take a moment on this. It's something new that we have started once we realize finances is not in an ideal situation. And I do appreciate our staff giving us a very thorough, I think it's somewhere between 20 to 30 some odd pages on a monthly basis, which is a lot of extra reading just on numbers. But I am becoming very good at understanding our finances. And regarding the binding condition, as Director Block had said, it is important that to understand that by going to binding condition, my understanding, if you have to correct me if my memory is incorrect, is that we're saving about $500,000 in interest this year. And so just declaring it it's a good strategy, and it's you know, we're looking at all the nuances as ways to save bottom dollar or our dollars. I do have one question, and that is, it was shared with us during study session about headcount, and I think it would be a headcount on a monthly basis, and my understanding is a headcount in the beginning of the school year is as important as other months, and having everyone present, or as many of the students as possible, will also save us money. If you could talk to that, that'd be great.
Yes. I appreciate the time, effort, and collaboration that went into developing this budget proposal. I want to emphasize again that finances are a very sensitive topic for our school community, and rebuilding trust must continue to be a top priority. Since joining the board in mid-April, I have seen a sincere effort by the district to improve transparency, both in the level of detail provided to the board and the community, and in the accuracy of financial projections. I have also seen a clear commitment to strengthening procedures to correct critical internal processes. Looking to the future, I believe we are taking the right step in the right direction. While there is still significant work ahead, the recent education bills that have passed, along with the opportunity to sell surplus property, put us on path to financial stabilization. However, budgets are more than just numbers. While projection may look balanced on paper, true sustainability depends on thoughtful execution and ongoing accountability. Having said that, we must recognize that we are in challenging time, and we don't have to forget that there are several factors that could negatively impact on our projections. So it will be critical for our finance the successful sale of our surplus property with no unexpected issues in environmental or soil inspection, the renewal of the capital levy by voters in February, non-unforeseen emergencies, student enrollment remains at least stable, and no additional cuts to federal or state educational funding. Although this budget position as for the coming year, we must remain alert and take proactive steps to minimize this risk. And finally, I will end. I strongly encourage us to continue engaging in legislative advocacy to ensure that the public education is funded with the resources every student needs to succeed.
Okay. Did I miss anybody? No. All right, so now you have a chance to respond. CFO Tillman.
That's still getting hard to get used to, by the way. But thank you for the questions. I'll do my best to answer all of them. I won't be doing it in order as some of them relate to each other, so I'm trying to group them together as related. I'll hold the staffing on the coverage. I'll have HR give a better understanding and description of it than I would be able to do. The first one was the contingency of the $4 million. We did build in that $4 million contingency as Dr. Aramaki presented with that list. And that is a major part of that is being conservative versus being optimistic. And a contingency is that we have built in the expense without building in revenue to net it out. One of the examples, and it relates to one of the questions, is the $500,000 interest. That $500,000 interest, the budget was starting to be built while we were not in binding, and it wasn't completely sure that we were going to be in binding. So we built in the $500,000 that we would have to pay for the interfund loan that we knew we were going to have to take. But because of all the work that was done, that if you're in binding, you do not have to pay the interest, we chose to keep the $500,000 in the budget as a contingency. And so that's part of the contingency plan. Other contingencies are that we added a contingency of staffing, to FTE staffing. Our hope is that we do not need to use it, but if we do, we have built in the expense for that staff. And then additional staff would be related to if our enrollment justifies additional staff. And that would be that we would receive additional revenue that would help negate that additional expense of staff. This contingency is just building in 2 staff without additional revenue. So that's primarily where the $4.5 million came from. $500,000 of it is something we were planning, and it's good that we don't need that expense, but it's better to keep it in for that. And other ones were built in as well. One of the other questions was about the prior budgets showing a different ending fund balance than what we ultimately ended up being. A lot of that were some of the budget assumptions that we have gone through and we have corrected. One of the major one is because the budget process is so long, and we have to select and choose what our beginning fund balance is for the year. So the beginning fund balance in prior years was estimated to be too high. And so that affects at the end of the year when you look at the budget and you say, oh, well, we should be at this ending fund balance. But if that beginning is too high, that automatically affects the ending fund balance. Because of our changes of processes and the review that we're doing monthly, study sessions, introducing a monthly projection, going through and figuring out a projection of where we will be. And during the study sessions, we consistently give you an update of where we believe the ending fund balance would be. Therefore, we will have a more accurate beginning fund balance for next year's budget than we have in the past. And so that makes the ending fund balance of next year more accurate than it has been in because it was off by too much. One of the other questions was the headcount and enrollment. Enrollment is our primary, it's how we're funded. How many students do we have? And enrollment is taken the first 4 days of the school primary. Kindergarten is a little different. It's a different time because they start later, but the first 4 days of school, enrollment is taken, and that gives us our enrollment, and that's what we submit to the state, and that's how they start funding us. Historically, because several families are still on vacation, when we have those 4 days, the student may not be attending those 4 days that we count. So we actually have to wait until the next time we take enrollment or submit enrollment. So therefore, our September enrollment is actually lower. They could show up on day 5, but we can't count them because they were not physically in their seat. And so that's a major crucial, it hurts us at the beginning of the year, and the funding we receive from the state at the beginning of the year, because the enrollment that we submit, it is lower than what our actual enrollment is. It's just we're required to submit an enrollment for the first 4 days. And if they're not there, we can't count them. So that's an important part. I believe the next one would be the coverage, and I think HR would be definitely the one to answer that in more detail.
Good evening,
Monica, hold
Board
on,
of
sorry.
Directors. How are you?
Monica, can you go to that budget assumptions slide? 32. Just so that Jeff can talk about class coverage. 32.
Yeah, too far. Go back.
No, other way.
The other way now.
Slide 32.
We might be able to do it.
There we go.
Oh,
No,
there it is. No,
no.
No, slide
This
32.
this one has animation. So you're going to have to click it again before you move on. One more.
There we go.
There it is.
All right, thank you. Jeff Thomas, I'm the Executive Director of Human Resources. The questions related to class coverage, yes, it is somewhat predictable. Class coverage is one way that we handle covering for teacher absence. It is primarily at the secondary level. You're more likely to see it because classes are in periods versus in the elementary, it's all day. It does happen at the elementary, but not as much. And the factors that impact it are lowest absence for teachers, and then the least class coverage happens in the first quarter. People are refreshed, they're ready to go. and you have this kind of gentle increase trend throughout the year. It has several spikes that hit if we've had long periods without a day off. So you start to get your first spike right around the middle of October. And then once flu season hits or whatever, then it will go through a wave following the illness in the community. But in the spring, you actually have a very predictable pattern that between January and then June, it gradually increases, with the most notable trend that there is a higher absence rate on Fridays. And that, again, very predictable. What is not predictable is whether that absence rate on a Friday is going to be 14% or 18%. And the net effect is, for us as a district, any day that we have a total of teacher absence above 10%, there's a high likelihood that we'll have class coverage. That's kind of the magic number that we shoot for.
The one thing that I would point out is the difference between subs and coverage is that the class coverage is coming from an existing teacher that is electing to not have one of their prep periods to fill in. So that's the difference between a sub and the class coverage. The class coverage is an existing teacher that is filling in for this instead of us having to go get a sub.
Correct. And it's typically, again, secondary, but what it means for the most part is when we do use class coverage, it may be a teacher is out, and then we may have 4 or 5 different teachers pick up one of the periods. The other is actually pretty common in class coverage is you only need coverage for 1 or 2 periods versus a whole day. So therefore, for us, it may be more effective just to do class coverage instead of paying a substitute who we have to pay a minimum of a half day if we bring them in.
The last thing I'll mention is around September enrollment and attendance. We are funded on an annual average of enrollment for the 10 months. So if you have low enrollment in September, but then a lot of people come back to school over the course of that month, and then when you average it, the September's enrollment, if it's low, will pull down the rest of the 9 months. And so I will put this out in a newsletter, but we do want to make sure that our families get back to school on time. It does impact our budget. We need our September enrollment. We can gain 200 to 300 kids over the course of that month. And so the more that we can have our families start the first week of school, the better. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to.
Okay, I'm going to ask the board members if they have any further reactions that they would like to express to this presentation, keeping in mind that we have a resolution on it, so there'll be a time for discussion again there. Okay? All right, if that's okay, then I would like to just go on to the resolution around this budget. Okay, so we're going to have 3 resolutions related to the 2025-2026 annual budget. And okay, so it says here to turn it over to Chief Financial Officer Lauren Tillman to provide an overview of each of these resolutions. Shall we do it one by one? Overview on item 6.1, Resolution 2025-10.
Yes, thank you. So the summary of Resolution 2025-10, this is the vote and the approval of the 25-26 budget. So this is you voting on the budget for next year, and it gives the district the authority to spend up to those expenditures that are in the budget. So that is the 2025-10. The next resolution is 2025-11, which is the capital products, funds, resources transferred to general funds and technology systems related to purchase out of general fund. That is a mouthful. But this is part of what Dr. Aramaki was talking about the levies and the voting. So this is in the budget. We put this in as revenue for the general fund. And this, for next year, the 2025-26 budget, we are estimating that to be $31,544,069 for us to be able to transfer out of the capital funds into the general funds for resources, class resources for technology that the general fund has spent. Then the third resolution is the 2025-12, which is the capital projects fund interest transferred to general fund, which is also in the budget, and it is $1.3 million being transferred. It is interest that we are allowed to, per that the RCW, that it is interest that the capital fund is earning, and we are allowed to transfer that interest that's earned over to the general fund for it to be used. This is the third year that third resolution, I will say, that we have done for each year, and will continue to do this on a yearly basis. 2 years ago, we caught up for prior years as we did not have the need for this interest, and therefore we left it in the capital, and then we moved forward to we will be transferring this on a yearly basis. So this year it will be $1.3 million is what we are estimating it to be. So those are the three resolutions that are related to the 2025-26 budget.
Microphone. Now we're going to go into the board business part of the meeting, and we're going to start with the approval of Resolution 2025-10. And I am now going to read the Resolution 2025-10, and then I will offer a motion to approve. So here we go. Whereas WAC 392-123-054 requires that the Board of Directors of every school district meet for the purpose of fixing and adopting the budget, including state and local funds, of the district for the ensuing fiscal year, and whereas a public notice was published announcing that on August 21st, 2025, the Board of Directors of the Bellevue School District Number 405, King County, Washington, would meet in public meeting for the purpose of fixing and adopting the 2025 to 2026 fiscal year budget, the 4-year budget plan, and the 4-year enrollment projection of the district, and whereas a public hearing on the budget for Bellevue School District Number 405, King County, Washington, was held on October 21st, 2025, in accordance with the laws of the state of Washington. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Bellevue School District Number 405, King County, Washington, has determined that the final appropriation in 2025-2026 for each fund will be as follows. General fund appropriation level, $433,251,999. Capital projects fund appropriation level, $128,767,282. Transportation vehicle fund appropriation level, $1,500,000. Debt service fund appropriation level, $88,878,613. Associated student body fund appropriation level, $6,878,613. $834,000, $834,960. Wow, I feel like that was a elementary school thing you learned. Okay, so I will move that we pass that resolution with all the numbers as stated and shown on the slide.
Second.
Okay, now it's time for some discussion regarding this. Who would like to go first with some comments that may be similar to the ones we had before, but more comments? I got more comments. All right, I'll start with more comments. And then I see, did I see Phil raise his hand, maybe? Director Block? I don't know. All right, here are my more comments. I think the community might wonder why I'm comfortable with this when seeing how unhappy I was with what happened with last year's budget. And let's see, I feel that because we've been meeting on a regular basis, at least once a month as a board with members of the finance department, I feel that we have developed more relationship and more trust between us. And then I feel that there's been a real culture change in the finance department. It is my hope and my feeling that hopefully we've established the relationship where the staff feel empowered to tell us bad news. And they don't feel that they have to downplay it or sort of hide it. We want to hear the bad news so we can deal with it. I'm also more comfortable with this because of the wonderful Accounting Finance Advisory Council, that acronym that John invented, which is a committee of really impressive community members who are volunteering their time to help us. I think I've said before, we've got a corporate vice president who's managed budgets like this. We've got somebody who used to be in a state accounting office and audit people, yeah, the state auditors, SAO. And then we've got somebody who worked for what I used to call a big 8 accounting firm, but apparently is now a big 4 because there's been mergers. But we've got people with real expertise. We've got people from OSPI also helping us because of the binding conditions. We've got, I want to say, a superintendent friend type person who's an expert from North Shore coming in and giving us advice. We've got like a whole community pulling together, trying to make this better and make sure those mistakes of the past do not ever happen again. And while I'm saying that, I also want to acknowledge the pain to our community. I think it's when bad things happen, we have to acknowledge it. And I want to acknowledge the teachers who may find that they're being asked to do more with less, and that there may be more students in their class. There may be some remedy pay, you know, depending on what the numbers are, and we will be following the union contract, but that's going to be difficult, and I want to really acknowledge that. And I want to acknowledge to the students who may find more students in their classroom, and their classroom is crowded, and the elective they really wanted is canceled, and I really want to acknowledge that pain to them. And I also want to acknowledge the staff in the front office who are going to be being asked to do more with less, and the staff in our central office where there's been deep cuts and there's fewer staff being asked to do more with less. Principals having to supervise more people without the, you know, the help of assistant principals in many cases. And the parents who may be asked to step up and volunteer more and help us, you know, they may be at home just trying to coach their kids through this change. And our community partners who we may be relying on more. So I just want to acknowledge that to the community. And then does anybody else want to say something? All right, Director Block, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carolyn. I think key pieces of feedback I have is it's actually a tagline from a podcast I listen to a lot, which is that none of us is as smart as all of us. And I feel that the finance department has embraced that this year, and they've worked collectively both with the board and beyond their silo within the school district to try to find creative solutions and to better understand the drivers for financial decision making. I do want to acknowledge that a couple of things. One, that Carolyn mentioned, one of the areas that we know there have been a lot of cutbacks is the reduction in the principal's office in the various schools. And that is both the parent-facing part of this many schools as well as an interface with many of the teachers. And that please be patient with our principals. They're going to be doing a lot more work than they've had to do the last couple of years. There's not going to be as much flexibility maybe to drop everything and tend to parent needs as there has been in the past. Those will have to be more scheduled, I'm sure. And they're providing a critical role in all of our buildings, and we really value their participation, but I also want to recognize that there's a lot less staff there. When I look at the budget, we've gone from about 11.5% of our budget going towards the central office and administrative staff to slightly more than 9%. So that's an area that the district has been cutting significantly and preferentially as it's moved through the last 2 years of the budget process. And that's something that we've heard from parents is, are there ways that we can avoid cutting back at the teachers and the things that impact our students as long as possible? We've done that. I believe the district has done that with this budget. I also want to recognize that one of the challenges with the budget, and our CFO and
We're having technical problems hearing you.
that we have today.
It kind of, yeah, we're not really hearing you. No. I'm sorry, your connection has just fritzed out.
He said keep going.
Okay. So the next thing is, okay, Director Aras? Yeah.
I just have a quick comment. I do want to say that one of the things I appreciate since we've started this journey in the finances is the quick or reasonable timeline of response to our questions and your brutal honesty. And I think that really helped us as a board to do our job as doing what we need to do and help guide in the best way we can. And also educating us in the process and doing a thorough job. That wasn't there before, and I think it's huge.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that.
Further comments? No? Oh, you do? Okay, good.
Yes, I would like also to add that for me as a former mom and former Bellevue School District employee, it's super important that now we are receiving the same numbers, right? In the past, the numbers, we didn't know what number to trust because they were changing. So I really appreciate that now the numbers are consistent and now I can trust the numbers. I appreciate the collaboration and also that the projections, they are matching with the reality. So for me, that is a super good sign. And I want also to acknowledge that it's going to be a challenging times for students, for families, and for staff because for the budget constraints. But I am optimistic. I really feel that having a student at the center, we are all going to work together to make that happen and just go through these difficult times. And I just encourage everyone just to be patient and we are going to go through it.
It didn't get a chance, but.
Yeah, it's okay. I
been
share
covered.
the same sentiment
Yeah.
as the rest of you. I just didn't want to
Okay.
restate. Mr. Tillman, you have just been a wonderful asset, I think, to this team, your team as well, Megan, and all of you all. I just appreciate the transparency and the patience that you have in explaining all the line items to us. It's been really helpful for us, and looking forward to continuing to collaborate.
Okay, so now we're going to do a roll call vote. And am I going to have to alphabetize you guys on the fly? No, we'll go. All right, Director from Area 1, Director Block, how do you vote? Roll call vote.
But are we on one, which
Yeah,
resolution?
we're on the very first resolution. We're doing all three of them. We had the motion, we had the
Aye.
second, we had the discussion. Now we're
Yep.
doing the roll call vote.
Yep, I vote aye.
Okay, and I'm Director 2, I vote aye.
Director 3, I vote aye.
Director 4, aye.
Director 5, aye.
Okay, so Resolution 2025-10 is approved. Now we're going to move on to Resolution 2025-11, and I'm going to ask Director Aris to read this resolution and offer a motion to approve it.
All right, I get the joy. Resolution number 2025-11. Whereas the state recognizes the technology has become an integral part of the facilities and educational delivery systems in schools, and that software companies are shifting from selling software as a one-time package to a license or an extended contractual relationship requiring a subscription and ongoing payments, determined that districts be empowered to respond to the changing business models in a software industry and be given flexibility and authority to use capital project funds to pay the license or online application fees and other related costs. And whereas the state modified RCW 298.320.3302F to allow the transfer of funds from the capital project funds to the general fund to cover expenditures for costs and associated with the application and modernization of the technology systems for online applications, subscriptions, or software licenses, including upgrading and incidental services and ongoing training related to the installations and integration of these products and services. And whereas the district estimated through its budget process for the 2025-26 fiscal year, that is, it will have approximately $31,544,069 in expenditures for continuing support of training, ongoing licenses, and fees for capital and instructional technology systems and other allowable purposes. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Bellevue School District Number 405, King County, Washington, authorities to $31,544,069 from the Capital Project Fund to General Fund in support of such technology cost. I move to approve Resolution 2025-11, Capital Projects Fund transfer to General Fund for Technology.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Now, time for discussion. Who would like to discuss this? All right, here I go again. I got discussion for you. My discussion will take the form of a historical footnote, which I think I already expressed to some of you. But I first heard about this possibility when I was a PTA parent representing Bennett at the Bellevue PTSA Council, God knows how many years ago. And I was told by staff at that time that Dr. Mike Riley had lawyers looking at this to see how much, what would be legally allowed to actually transfer over. And with that, and then also we learned from other districts and from WASDA how you could, what was legit to move over. And apparently software and training is in the safe space. But I remember them saying that we wanted to push it as close to the line as possible because this really helps us, because as the community may not know, we don't have the same kind of limits on the capital fund there as we do on our normal general fund. So that's all. Historical footnote. Any other comments? No? All right. So now we're going to have a roll call vote on this, and I'm going to start with Director Block.
Director Block votes aye.
All right. Director Watson, aye.
Director Trilles, aye.
Director Webster, aye.
There you go.
Director Aris, aye.
Okay. All right. So Resolution 2025-11 has been approved. Okay, one more, hang in there. We're now moving on to Resolution 2025-12, and I'm now going to ask Director Trias to read Resolution 2025-12 and to offer a motion to approve.
Okay. Resolution number 2025-12. Whereas RCW 288.320.320 allows the Board of Directors of any school district to designate interest earnings to a fund different from the which earn their interest so long as the funds are expended for instructional supplies, equipment, or capital outlay purposes. And whereas the district, through their budget process for fiscal year 2026, has need for approximately 1.3 million in interest earned from the Capital Projects Fund to be credited to the general fund to support the purchase of instructional supplies and materials. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Bellevue School District number 405, King County, Washington, designates approximately 1.3 million in interest earnings posted to the Capital Projects Fund during fiscal year 2026 to be credited from the Capital Projects Fund to the General Fund. I move to approve Resolution 2025-12.
Okay.
Second.
Do we have a second? Oh, who seconded it? Okay, Director Aris. All right, now, are we going to have some discussion? Does anybody want to discuss? You know I want to discuss. It's not much of a discussion, but I just want to say that, you know, I think CFO Tillman hit on this. We didn't do this a lot when interest was near zero. So most of my time on the board, I don't really remember this resolution coming up all that often. But now it really can help our cash flow. We need, you know, every $1 million we can get, because as we've been saying amongst ourselves that we don't even have $1 million room for error in this budget with the binding conditions. All right, that's enough. Anything else? Okay, so now we're going to do the roll call vote. All right, and I'm going to start again with Director Block, number 1. Okay, number 2, Director Watson, aye.
Number 3, Director Trilles, aye.
Number 4, Director Webster, aye.
Director Aris, aye.
Okay, so Resolution 2025-12 has now been approved. So now it's time for director discussion. Oh my goodness. I feel like I've discussed enough, but okay. Why don't we do the director discussion, and people, whoever wants to go first can raise their hand. Okay, Director Aris.
I just have one item. I was able to attend the Leadership Institute with all of our leaders this past week. I went 2 out of the 3 days. Wish I could have gone to the 3rd day because they talked about MTSS. I heard. It would have been nice to see and hear what people had to say regarding all of that. But it was great to hear a sigh of relief from our leaders to know that we are really hyper-focusing on the basics and going really kind of driving into the foundational areas and the appreciation that they had of all the work that you know, the leadership and the board is put in together to set for this next year. Love listening to our leadership leaders in the district getting excited about this next year. curious to see what the SIP plans look like. I know there was lots of conversation already in the first day and the second day. So I thank the staff for letting the board, sit in and participate and be part of that discussion as we move forward for this next year, which is coming up really fast.
Okay, who's next? Yeah, all right,
Sure.
we'll just go down the line.
Yeah, so I'm sorry that I missed Leadership Institute. I went last year and I had so much fun, but I had to do a presentation at work with some other state leaders, so I had to go to work. But I heard some wonderful things from Director Ars about the time that you all had, so happy to go next year, hopefully. And I just want to reiterate something that we talked about earlier, and that was Rainier Athletes and how much of a vital partner they have been to our students, and they have a waiting list right now and are in desperate need of mentors. And I think Director Trias has volunteered, thank you so much, to become a mentor. But they take in kids at like 4th or 5th grade level, and they work with them and they mentor them all the way through high school. And that's just an incredible opportunity for kids and their experience. And so if anybody is interested in becoming a mentor, please go to their website. I think it's rainierathletes.org and sign up so that kids have opportunities to have a mentor. And I know that President Watson's probably going to talk about the AFAC, but we met and had a wonderful time there. We talked a lot in detail about how our school district is actually funded. Mr. Tillman goes into details there, and it's just such a rich conversation. You went into depth in reviewing how the levy operates, its mechanisms, and the significant impact that it has on our overall budget. And so I think just having that conversation was just such a phenomenal opportunity for our community members to learn more about our district. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Dr. Trias.
Okay, I was going to comment the Leadership Institute and also the Rainier Athletes. So for the Rainier Athletes, I echo what Monica said, and honestly, they are also desperately in need of mentors that speak Spanish. So if people, even they cannot be a mentor and they know someone that can be a mentor, please, that I just forward through my friends and they are going to become a mentor. They are going also to train the mentors because obviously we are not skilled enough right now to be a mentor. So they have a lot of resources to help us to bring the best to our students. So thank you, and I know that you are the liaison of Rainier Athletes, and it's an amazing community partners. I am going also to go to Jubilee Ridge this weekend, and please, if there are more volunteers, I know that there are still spots available to help in our schools, in the classroom, outside, so a lot of different opportunities that can fit for everyone. And for the Leadership Institute, it was so nice looking our leaders. I was expecting, honestly, to see our leaders a little bit down. Oh my God, the next year is going to be a challenge. And oh my God, they were ready to work. They were inspired. They were, just energized, and hope they got the message that we are here for them, that we know that it's going to be a challenging time, and we are going to make our best to help them to make their students succeed. So it was very energetic to be there, honestly.
Okay, well, I also had gone to the Leadership Institute for many years, and that is where I first met Dr. Aramaki once. But I didn't get to go this year because I had to be in Philadelphia. But I did get back in time to go to the PTSA Principals and Presidents Breakfast, which I don't know if everyone's familiar with that event, but it was very well run this year. And it's a time where the principals and their PTA presidents get to sit together and have some time and space to work out how they're going to work together. And what I especially appreciated was Dr. Aramaki modeling that with the council president up on the stage, you know, really setting the tone, because there has been time in the past where principals haven't seen it as important. So that is fantastic on his part. I also, you know, have been going on about how much I appreciate the AFAC. So what I will say about that is we had this was a 3-hour scheduled meeting. We were there for like 3.5 hours, and I enjoyed every minute of it. It's crazy. How can you enjoy finance that much? It's a really good group of people, and we could just, you know, just talk about things, and it's fun to bounce ideas off of these really smart people in the room who have lots of experience. And then I'll also say during that time period, I'm also thinking about communicating about the levy and the budget. And a lot of that has got to do with things that we all know so well because we spend so many hours talking about it, that when you come at it fresh from like a parent or community member's view, it doesn't make sense. And so we've got to back up and figure out what those are and get those communicated as best we can. And that's what I have. So let me roll to Director Block.
Thanks. I'm excited about the beginning of the school year coming up. I've got a 10th grader who's not as excited as I am, but I always love to see the genuine joy from students as they come back to the classrooms in the fall. And that's part of the reason why I like being part of the school board, is to make sure that we're providing students with joy, make school, sure the schools are a place that they want to be every day. That if they want to be there, I genuinely believe that that'll help them learn, whether they're wanting to be there for their friends or their teachers or the content that's before them. Just helping them be excited about that. I've been working with my school's PTSA to get ready for this year. I know that that's something that many of the PTSAs are working on. There's so much work that goes on before the school year starts to make sure that we have a truly energetic and fulfilling school year for everyone. I do want to just acknowledge that learning has been going on during the summer. I know that the Boomer School program, there are also some vocational programs. One of my 10th grader was lucky enough to participate in the School of Aviation's summer school program so he could get exposure to aviation careers, which is a public school attribute. So that's something that we treat the school district where they were able to go there, and there were a half dozen or so from Bellevue that were participating, as well as many from Lake Washington School District and all the school districts around us. And there are a lot of great opportunities for students to get some exposure to vocation and career education through those experiences. So I appreciated that and thought it was a great thing that not everybody's aware of. So I just wanted to close with that. Thank you.
Okay, great. So with all that, are you looking at me like you have something more you have to say? No, okay. So that ends director discussion, and I believe we have nothing else on the agenda that we need to complete. So I will say that this meeting of the Bellevue School District Board of Directors is now adjourned at 6:26 p.m., 4 minutes early. Wow. All right, thank you.